And the first thing that he told his mom was, "I'm in here." Quote, he spelled, "I'm in here. The weight of a soul, of my son's soul, hit me like a gale wind and left me stunned, speechless. My heart and my mind didn't seem to grasp it all. It was too wonderful. Oh my gosh." Houston. Imagine going through 20 years of life thinking that your son is a vegetable and that there's nothing in there. And then can also utilize the sense. What if the Soviets can read our tapes for good reason? But no one on the internet seems to be talking about the tinfoil that the telepathy tapes should be naturally bringing up in all of our minds. Tinfoil about certain things that you put in your body, maybe. Tinfoil about the government. Tinfoil about Elon Musk and various other tech companies and brain AI interfacing technologies. There's a whole can of worms in basically every direction you walk with this story. But a lot of people still haven't even heard the story yet. A lot of people have heard of the telepathy tapes but don't actually know what it is and haven't listened to it for themselves.
forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack. Forces are under attack. Require more minerals. Require more minerals.
unless you do listen to it for yourself, you're really not even a part of this conversation yet, because it is so fantastic and so mind-bending that you really do have to get the evidence from the source right from the start, from the words in the podcast itself. Otherwise, you're going to be operating in a weird frame of belief-disbelief. So, this is going to be a breakdown of what the telepathy tapes means about us, about God, about all of humanity, as well as a dive into some of the tinfoil that is not mentioned in the telepathy tapes, and I'm not seeing anyone talking about online, about do these telepathic abilities apply to children who may have developed autism after certain medical procedures, so to speak? And could it possibly be that the government or elements in the government, in the CIA, in the defense industry, in the tech industry, could it be that they have known about this for some time? Could there be a nefarious angle? Let's see if today we can cancel Ian Carroll.
Conspiracy theories are dangerous.
Information is the oxygen of a democracy.
With Republicans, with progressives, with libertarians, because this is not about right and left, this is about right and wrong.
It's so sick we can't talk.
Our security is at stake.
So, the telepathy tapes have just been released in the last couple months here, and they are spreading across the internet like wildfire, but in a somewhat quiet way, because everyone's a little afraid to talk about them because they're a little crazy and they're a little hard to wrap your head around. And if you're talking about the telepathy tapes to someone who has not listened to this podcast, you're liable to be labeled crazy. So, here's a disclaimer. Until you've listened to all 10 episodes of season 1 of the telepathy tapes, you should probably refrain from judging any conversation about the telepathy tapes because it's really complicated. That being said, I'm going to do my best to summarize why they matter, how much evidence is in them, what they're evidence of. I'm going to spoil a lot of things, but I won't spoil some of the best, juiciest parts of the later episodes that you should really experience with your own heart and soul for yourself. And then we'll get into all the tinfoil. So, if you want to listen to the telepathy tapes, a lot of people don't even realize what that is. It is a podcast. It is not a series of raw recordings of children that are autistic saying things. It is a podcast. And if you go to YouTube and you type in telepathy tapes, you can just type that in. You could also type in season 1. You're looking for telepathy tapes season 1, the whole compilation. That'll pop up with all 10 episodes in one place. They're not all in order, so double check that. It's a little weird when you get to episode 4 and you're actually on episode 5 because it skipped. And start at the beginning. Start at episode 1, season 1, right there. Because Kai Dickens is a filmmaker that stumbled across this story by accident. She was doing other stuff, and then she caught wind of this woman named Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell. She started listening to her speaking on a podcast about her research into telepathy, and it piqued her interest. And Kai Dickens had no background in telepathy or paranormal stuff or any of these things before this. And so she naturally walks her way in slowly as a skeptic, exploring why the evidence stands up and why we should take this seriously and how you can trust the data. And she went to great pains to make sure that she could trust the data. And you should all walk through that experience with her in episodes 1 and 2 because the data is fucking insane. And it's going to be really hard for you to take this seriously if you don't understand the standard, the level of scientific
You've not enough minerals. You've not enough minerals. My life for hire. My life for hire. What man calls, honor guide me. What man calls, I long for combat. What man calls, thus I swear to engage the enemy. He saw for a moon. He saw I long for combat. Thus I swear for a moon. He saw what man calls, I long for combat. What man calls, she house, what lies for eyes, no piles. She house, what man calls, I long for combat. She house, he saw for a moon. Go, honor guide me, for a moon, for a moon. She house. My life for hire, I long for combat. Go, my life for hire. She house. Go, thus I serve. Go, Kola. You have not enough bylaws for combat. Go, Kola. One man calls. He saw honor guide me. My life she house, thus I serve. For a moon, she house. Go, Kola, she house. What man calls, I long for combat. Thus I serve. She house. He saw, thus I serve. I long for combat. What man calls, he saw. I long for combat.
that's going into some of these tests. Not all of them by any means, but some of them. So here is Kai Dickens' introduction to Dr. Powell, a little bit about Dr. Powell, and a little bit about how this whole series came to be.
I had never heard of something like telepathy being talked about from a neuroscientist, and I went back to the intro just to learn a little bit more about Dr. Powell's background.
I applied to medical school and went to Johns Hopkins, and while there I continued to do neuroscience research and work with some of the greatest minds in neuroscience. And instead of staying on to Hopkins for faculty, I joined the faculty at Harvard.
So, as much as someone can be, she's a legitimate academic, and she goes on to talk about her background in research. She started by studying savant skills. For a quick refresher, savants have exceptional aptitude in something like math or language or art without having any formal training or exposure to the skill. So, like someone who can play piano expertly without one lesson, or someone who has a brain injury and suddenly understands calculus. So Dr. Diane Powell is studying savant skills in autistic children, and somewhere along the way, enough parents had said, look, I'm actually not sure if they are a savant. I think they might just be reading my mind. Dr. Powell's primary subjects are non-speakers who are usually diagnosed with autism. Her subjects to date communicate by pointing to a letterboard or typing into an iPad or some sort of other speaking device. She explained doing experiments with some of these non-speakers where she'll put them in a room and put the parent or teacher or whoever they're telepathic with in another room or on the other side of a partition. Then Dr. Powell will generate random numbers or random pictures, and the non-speaker will try to type out what they believe the parent or their teacher or whoever is looking at from the other side of the room. And here's the host, Suzanne Scully, asking her how accurate the children were.
And if the time that they are correct is statistically significant.
Oh, it's like over 95%.
Over 95% of the time?
Yes.
So, important, critical piece of understanding about autistic people for us to build at the start here is how do autistic people's bodies work and how are they able to communicate with us? Because understanding a little bit of the background about this is critical to understanding how we're now saying that autistic people are all telepathic and can read your mind and each other's minds and can communicate across vast distances instantaneously and can access the entire library of human knowledge, apparently, at will. Yes, those are the claims that are not just claimed, but evidenced in the telepathy tapes. And in order for us to get there, we really need to back up a second and show you a little bit about how autistic people's bodies work and how their communication works, etc. So, if you go to the telepathytapes.com, you'll be greeted with Kai's cute pink tape. And on the telepathytapes.com, there's lots of resources, and behind a $10 paywall, there are videos of many of the tests. Some people call Kai a grifter for putting these things behind a paywall. I don't agree with that. I think that it is a perfectly legitimate way to crowdfund her research, and that the tests that are on the website are an awesome thank you and way to give back to people that want to support their work. Do not be under the impression that you're going to receive an archive of thousands of videos of all the hours of all the tests she's ever done. That is not what is behind the paywall. What is behind the paywall are short snippets of tests that just give you visuals of what's going on throughout the story and help you to understand what we're talking about here. And it is really cool. But you should think about the $10 paywall as a donation to the project of producing this documentary so that it is not theoretically paid for by big money that wants to control the narrative. We'll get to that later. So autistic people, in general, they are a soul that is tethered within a body that does not respond to their commands. Their brain is at these much higher wavelength frequency worlds, whatever, we don't know, inside of a body that they mostly do not have control over, which is why they have all these tics and these stims and these like inability to control their body. And some autistic people have more control over their body than others, and that is related to who can speak in some words and who can't speak at all, and there's a whole spectrum. And it's probably not all the same thing. I'm certainly no expert on autism. But to get a picture, here is a boy with a more severe
My life for hire. You've not enough minerals. My life for hire. Honor guide me. What now calls? I long for combat. Honor guide me. House, thus I serve. Honor guide me. House, what thou calls. The warriors now House, for Adun. Honor guide me. Isatsu, honor guide me. Thus I serve. The warriors life for hire. What thou calls. You've not house. Thus I serve. For Adun. What thou calls. The warriors have engaged the guide me. Thus I serve. My life for hire. I long for combat. Honor guide me. I long for combat. Thus I serve. Honor guide me. For Adun. Your warriors have engaged the enemy. Honor guide me. My life for hire. What thou calls. Honor guide me. What thou calls. What thou calls. I long for combat. What thou calls. I long for combat. What thou calls. Honor guide me. House. I long for combat. What thou calls. I long for combat. My life for hire. I long for combat. I long for combat. You've not enough minerals. I long for combat. Isatsu, House. I long for combat. I long for combat. House. House. I long for combat. What thou calls. I long for combat. Thou calls. What thou calls. For Adun.
Controllable body. sort of a situation, but an extremely lucid soul. And his words are shared extensively throughout the podcast, and you're going to grow to love him throughout that podcast. This is John Paul. So you can see how his body is doing things outside of his own control, but he can bring it to heal, and he can force it to be under control enough to do gross motor actions with a lot of effort, right? Imagine the amount of effort it takes you to do an extremely hard physical task. That's the kind of effort that I presume that they describe that autistic people require in order to control their body to make these kinds of gross motor movements of pointing at letters on what's called a letterboard.
Good
job.
Takes a break. They show you the room just so you know this is part of one of the telepathy tests. So we'll get to this, but in the case of the experiment, this number has been generated on the phone. John Paul has not seen it, and now he is reading his mother's mind and typing that number into his letterboard.
That's so good. Good.
So, that is a case of someone who has learned to use letterboards despite having relatively little control over their bodies. Akil, another person that you'll meet in the season 1 of the telepathy tapes, has much more control over his body, and he's able to use an iPad to type his words. Still, you can tell that he's autistic, and still you can tell that his body is not entirely his own, but it allows for a much more direct form of more rapid communication. So they've generated a random word that his mother can see, but he cannot.
C A R D. Izzard.
Nice, Akil.
I didn't touch at all.
Izzard.
So you can see that he still does some stimming. He's got his blanket to help his body, to help ground him in his body. Everyone that is autistic has their own things to deal with, but what we are coming to understand through their ability to communicate is that there is a whole person and way more hiding inside of these bodies, so to speak. And for the longest time, autistic people had no way of communicating. For the longest time, they were treated as though there was nothing there, and they were dead inside, and they couldn't communicate. They didn't have thoughts. They weren't intelligent, and they were just these big walking problems, essentially. And at some point, someone discovered that if you give them a letterboard like this, they can learn to use their gross motor skills to type out words and communicate. And once that started, the floodgates opened with autistic people communicating what's going on inside of those bodies. And it was very controversial for a long time because involved in that process, there's an element of teaching them to touch the right letters, and so there's an element of guiding them to letters a little bit at the start. But once they gain, control over their systems and control over the skills, they're able to type on their own, and that controversy has long since passed. And anyone that's still trying to ride on the controversy of spelling is ill-informed or potentially subversive for reasons that we'll get into. So that's all I'm going to show from behind the vault. I would recommend to anyone that's interested, please consider supporting the podcast with that $10 donation through Kai's website, thetelepathytapes.com. It's cool that we're crowdfunding this research and that we're crowdfunding this documentary. And I don't want to give away all the juicy stuff that's behind that paywall, but it's not the whole archive of footage. She's saving a lot of that for when they make this documentary, but it is certainly a look behind the scenes. So before we get too deep in here, it's important to kind of think about how this phenomenon has emerged and how our understanding of it has emerged and why we're just hearing about it now in 2025. And the answer to that is a long, slow opening process, because it took a while, hundreds of years, thousands of years, for people to realize that autistic people could communicate and to learn how to use these letterboards and then to start talking with them through these letterboards to hear what they wanted to say. And through my understanding is the 40s, 50s, mostly the 60s, 70s, and 80s primarily. Were starting to communicate with their children, and therapists and teachers were starting to use these in small, isolated places around the country and around the world. And as they did that, they started to realize that not only were their autistic family members and friends both very much in there and very much intelligent, but they started to realize that there was something else going on. And sometimes that was an autistic person directly telling them, I can read your mind. And sometimes it was autistic people doing things that just implied that they could read their mind. And then they slowly figured it out. But when you're a family learning this about your child alone in this world, you're already very isolated because you have an autistic child and you don't merge well with society. And so as you learn, holy shit, my child can read my mind, who the hell is going to believe you? Who are you even going to tell about that? And when you do tell people about that, they're not going to be receptive to that, whether they're scientists or their friends or their family members. Until you see it firsthand, how could you possibly believe that? And so over the last 30, 40, 50 years even, parents in small pockets around our country and around the world have been realizing that their children can read their minds and much, much more. But it has stayed in these little pockets of knowledge of people that understand this, and it has not gotten out to the mainstream. But it has more and more, they have, through the internet mostly, they have met each other, they have merged, they have talked to each other, they've flown to see each other, and they have networked. And now, by the time Kai stumbled across this story, there were large networks of people that already understood this, that had already communicated. There was lots of proof. There was mountains of evidence just waiting to be exposed. And that is what the telepathy tapes is. That's what this phenomenon is right now.
Right away, sir. Orders, Captain.
Not enough minerals.
I read you. Job finished. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Job finished. Orders, Captain? I read you. I can't build there. Reporting for duty. Right away, sir. Orders, Captain? I read you. Reporting for duty. SCV good to go, sir.
You want a piece of me, boy?
Reporting for duty.
Give me some of this shoot. Commander.
Orders, Captain? Orders, Captain?
Commander. Go, go, go.
I read you.
Not enough
Commander.
minerals.
Go, go,
SCV
go.
good to go, sir. Job finished. Yes, sir. I read you. Job finished.
You want a piece of me, boy?
I read you. Affirmative. Job finished. I read you. Reporting for duty. Orders received.
Give me some of this shoot. Standing by.
Orders, Captain?
Give me some of this shoot. Rock and roll. You want a piece of me, boy? Give me some of this shoot. Standing by. Commander, give me some of this shoot. Commander,
Your
standing by.
forces are under attack.
Outstanding. Rock and roll.
Good to go, sir.
Go, go, go. Give me some of this shoot. Go, go, go. Standing by. Check out. Good to go.
Roger that. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
Not enough minerals.
Commander, go, go, go. Rock and roll. You want a piece of me, boy? Standing by. Go, go, go.
Reporting for duty.
Give me some of this shoot. Jacked up.
Reporting
Good
for
to go.
duty. Orders, Captain?
Give me some of this
Job
shoot.
finished. SCV good to go, sir. Reporting for duty. Roger that. I can't build
Give me
there.
some of this shoot.
Reporting for duty.
Commander,
Job finished.
jacked up and good to go. Let's move. Outstanding. Jacked up and good to go. Give me some of this shoot. Let's move. Standing by. You want a piece of me, boy? Rock and roll.
State the nature of your medical emergency.
I read you.
Not enough minerals.
I can't build there.
Upgrade
Standing
complete.
by. Commander, outstanding.
SCV good to
Want
go,
a piece
sir.
of me, boy?
Job finished.
Rock and
Where
roll.
does it hurt?
Commander,
State the
standing
nature of
by.
your medical emergency.
Jacked up
Where
and
does
good
it
to go.
hurt?
Your forces are under attack.
Give me
Not
some of
enough
this shoot.
minerals.
I read you. I can't build there. SCV good to go,
Standing
sir.
by. Commander,
Did someone
Commander,
page me?
you want a piece of me, boy?
Did someone page
Commander,
me?
give me
Did
some of
someone
this
page
shoot.
me?
Yes, sir. Job orders, Captain.
Not enough minerals.
Standing by.
Orders, Captain. Right away, sir.
Jacked
Did
up
someone
and good
page
to go. Give me some of this shoot. Commander,
State the nature of your medical
outstanding. Give me
emergency.
some of this
Where
shoot.
does it hurt?
Give me some of this
I
shoot.
read you. I read you.
Jacked up and
Need
good to
medical
go.
attention?
Standing by. Go, go, go.
Need medical
Jacked
attention?
up and good to go.
Need medical attention?
Outstanding.
Need medical attention?
Rock and roll. Let's
Did someone
go.
page me?
Outstanding.
Did someone page me? State the nature of your medical
Your forces
emergency.
are under attack.
Jacked up and
Where
good
does
to
it
go.
hurt?
Research complete.
Did someone page me?
Go, go, go.
Did someone page me?
Rock and roll.
Need medical
Give me
attention?
some of this shoot. Standing by.
Where does it hurt?
Jacked up and good to go. Commander,
Need medical attention?
standing by.
Yes, sir. SCV
Your
good to
forces
go,
are
sir.
under attack.
Orders received.
Give me some of
Add-on
this shoot.
complete.
Where does it hurt?
Standing by. Jacked up and
State the
good to go.
nature of your medical
Jacked up
emergency.
and good to go.
Reporting for duty.
You want a piece of me, boy?
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Right away, sir. Reporting for duty.
Standing
Add-on
by.
Where
complete.
does it
Rock
hurt?
and roll.
Job
State the
finished.
nature of your
Jacked
medical
up and good
emergency.
to go.
Add-on
Piece of
complete.
me, boy.
Yes, sir.
Give me some of
Insufficient
this shoot.
phosphine
Medical
gas.
emergency.
Yes, sir.
Standing by.
Yes, sir. Roger that. Job finished. I read you.
Commander,
Did someone page me?
Orders, Captain.
standing by. Commander,
Yes, sir.
Commander.
Yes, sir. Reporting for duty.
standing by.
Did someone page me?
I read you.
nature of your medical emergency.
Your forces are under attack.
I read you.
Insufficient personnel. Research complete.
I read you. Commander, report for duty. Orders, Captain. Standing by. Let's move. Go, go, go. Let's move. Ready to roll now. I can't feel that. Checked up and good to go. Orders, Captain. Job, I read you. Report for duty. Yes, sir. I read you. Job finished. Checked up and good to go. Checked up and good to go. I can't feel there. Job finished. Commander.
Need medical attention.
Checked up and good to go. Orders, Captain. Orders received. Give me something to shoot. Yes, sir.
Insufficient
Report for
personnel.
duty. Give me something to shoot. Right away, sir. I can't feel there. Orders received. Ready to roll now. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. Job
Need
finished.
medical
Go, go,
attention.
go.
On my
Rock and
way.
roll. Yes, sir. Give me something to
State the
shoot.
nature of your medical emergency.
Let's move.
Need medical attention.
Yes, sir. I read you. Yes, sir. Job finished. Good to go, sir. Report for duty. Job finished. Affirmative. Orders, Captain. Job finished.
Did someone page me? State the nature of your medical emergency.
Standing by. Jacked up and good
State the nature of your medical
Report for
emergency.
duty. Ready to roll out.
Not enough minerals.
Job ready. Job finished. Commander. Destination. Give me something to shoot.
Medical attention.
Jacked up and good Destination.
Did someone page me?
Orders, Captain. You want a piece of me, boy? Orders, Captain. Affirmative. Jacked up and good to go. Identify target.
Did someone page me?
Identify target. Jacked up and good to go.
Need medical attention. State the nature of your medical emergency.
Your forces are under
I
attack.
read you. Job order for duty. Orders received.
Research
Need
complete.
medical attention. State the nature of your medical emergency. Right away. State the nature of your medical emergency.
I read you. Orders received. I can't feel there. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Checked up.
Need medical attention. Did someone page me? Did someone page me?
Let's move.
Where is it?
Absolutely. You want a piece of me, boy?
Did someone page me?
Yes, sir. Orders, sir. Destination.
Need medical attention.
Commander. Outstanding.
Need medical attention.
SCP is go, sir.
Need medical
Go,
attention.
go, go. Orders, sir. Receiving headquarters. Give me
Did
something
someone
to shoot.
page me?
Give me something to shoot. Have you ready to roll out? Rock and roll. Report for duty. Explorer reporting. Job finished. Orders, Captain. I read you. Commander. Orders, Captain. Job finished. I read you. Piece of people.
We have hit critical mass where enough examples of this are way out there enough. There's enough documentation. There's enough scientists willing to do the scientific testing. And there's a hunger for truth. And Kai put it all together into this podcast that puts all the truth in one place, or at least a lot of the truth in one place. Not all of it. And we'll talk about the parts that got left out in just a minute here. But so now we are being dropped this bombshell of just this massive archive of knowledge and of information that seems to be so challenging to our paradigm. But it has been developing over decades and decades as these children have emerged And there are more and more autistic children every year for reasons that we don't understand, at all, that we'll get to later. But a brief clip about the scope of this phenomenon, how vast this all is.
I just couldn't believe that parents of non-speaking kids who don't know each other from all over the world are in on a mass conspiracy theory to trick the world into believing in telepathy. That's just impossible. These families don't know each other. In fact, most of them reaching out to Dr. Powell felt utterly alone. They weren't sure if they were the only ones in the world that this was happening to. So, from my point of view, there was something big and something real going on.
So, through the intro, Kai builds the credibility of what's going on here. She builds the scope of how many people are reporting what's going on here. And then she meets Dr. Diane Powell and starts to run some tests. And she shows, through audio format and video on the website, what those tests look like. And they are very much controlled. They are very much conclusive. They are very much well beyond, enough evidence that we should be studying this in greater depth, at least to just make sure that we're not missing anything here. But it's pretty obvious once you listen to episode 1 and especially episode 2 that we're on to something much, much, much bigger, and that this is beyond beyond just a suspicion, beyond just a maybe, beyond a conspiracy theory. This is clearly happening in households all around the country, all around the world. Thousands and thousands and thousands of examples, okay? And in the first episodes, Kai focuses on the fact that they can read minds. They seem to be able to not just read your mind, read especially their parents' minds, the people that love them the most and trust them the most, because love and trust is deeply connected to this conversation.
Additional pylons. You have not enough minerals. 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 My life for hire. Go, Kola. She house. Honor guide me. My lord for combat. She house. One man calls. One man calls. My lord for combat. You have not enough minerals. You have not enough minerals. She house. Honor guide me. For a noon. Go, Kola. Honor guide me. Your war is out. I saw you. She house. One man calls. For a noon. You have constructed additional pylons for combat. Go, Kola. Plus I swear. Go, Kola. Plus I swear. One man calls. Go, Kola. My love for combat. She house. Honor guide me. She house. One man calls. My life for hire. Plus I serve. He saw you. For a noon. Honor guide me. He saw you. engaged the enemy. Not enough heroes. Thus I serve. Honor guide me. Isaac. Honor guide me. Thus I serve. Heroes. Thus I serve. I long for combat. Warriors have engaged the enemy. For a noon. I long for combat. What now calls? Honor guide me. Isaac. I love the combat. Thus I serve. Honor guide me. The warriors have engaged the Isaac. I long for combat. Isaac. For Hadun. Isaac. What now calls? My life for hire. The warriors have engaged the enemy. What now calls? What now my life for hire. Isaac. Honor guide me. I long for combat. My life for hire. My life for hire. Not enough for Hadun. Your warriors have engaged the enemy. Not enough minerals. I long for combat. Your warriors have engaged the enemy. Thus I serve. My life for hire. My life for hire. House, what now calls? Thus I serve. Honor guide me. Your warriors have engaged the enemy. House, what now calls? I long for combat. I long for combat. Honor guide me. House, thus I serve. Gas. My life for hire. What now calls? long for combat. I long for combat. My life for hire. I long for combat. I long for combat. She ousted I me. One now calls. Is all to honor guide me. What now calls. My life for honor. I long for combat. Not enough minerals. She house for a dune. It's all too. My life for hire. Still I long for combat. Engage the enemy. It's all too. What now calls. I long for combat. I long for combat. It's all to your thoughts. House, my life for high has been gas. It's all to engage the enemy. Upgrade complete. Warriors have engaged the enemy. It's all to It's all to have engaged the enemy. Stop. My life for hire. You require my life for gas. My life for hire have engaged the enemy. House. My life for hire is all to. I long for combat. House is all to steal your thoughts. What now calls. Upgrade complete. House, what now calls. I long for combat. You and Steve I be. The warriors have engaged the enemy. What now calls. What now calls. Upgrade complete. It's all to for a dune. Research complete. House. The warriors have engaged the enemy. It's all to. I long for combat. It's all to. I long for combat. It's all to. Field stabilized. One field stabilized. It's all to I call. Your thoughts. The warriors have engaged the enemy. My life for hire. The sound is real. Fighters have engaged the enemy. We feel your presence. Upgrade complete. We are vigilant. We are vigilant. My life for hire. My life for hire. My life for hire. We are vigilant. Dark house. Us. forces are under attack. Spawn more overlords. Forces are under attack.
But it seems that they can do a lot more than that. They can communicate telepathically with each other across vast distances. They can also utilize the senses of their parents and loved ones, of their teachers, of their therapists. They can actually inhabit your senses and see through your eyes. This is shown by a test where one of the girls is being given colored popsicle sticks, and she's trying to place them into different colored piles of colored popsicle sticks. And you could conceive that there's like some spatial reasoning where she's hearing her mom's thoughts about whether the popsicle stick is going into the right pile, but it's pretty obvious when you watch the test and listen to how it is done that she is just going directly from popsicle stick to pile, popsicle stick to pile, popsicle stick to pile, with one problem where a pile is like wrong for her body's posture and she can't control her body well enough to reach across her body and put it in the right pile, and then she readjusts her body so that she can put the popsicle. She clearly is seeing through a very thorough blindfold to just know what colors sticks are in her hand and what color sticks are on the table in front of her. And they go through test after test after test with random word generators, random number generators, with popsicle sticks and colors, with ideas, with like opening a book to a random page and pointing at a random word, books that the child has never even seen before. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. Just episode 1 is enough to completely flip the entire scientific paradigm of materialism on its head. And oh boy, just wait until you get to episode 9. But even so, in episode 1, Dr. Powell lays out in clear and pretty harsh language how even this level of evidence, the scientific community is set up to not accept.
And here's Diane Powell telling me she was good, but none of the tests that we did today would be accepted by her scientific peers. And I felt crestfallen and confused. So careful. There was no cheating. Every mirror was covered. All the glass was covered. Mia was never even looking in the direction of the cues. We tested the blindfolds. We had partitions. People were looking at this from every angle. We had 5 cameras. Everyone in that room saw with their own eyes that Mia consistently, somehow, could read her mother's mind. Even Jeff Tarrant, the QEEG guy, said, "I've never seen anything like this." I couldn't understand what Dr. Powell was telling me, that all the tests we'd done over the past few days would be thrown out by science. And we will get into that. We'll get into why that is. But at that moment, I looked at Dr. Powell and said, who could be better than this? And she said I should go test one of the children she tested before. She suggested that I go meet a boy named Akil and his mother, Manisha.
And Akil is the boy that you saw tapping on the iPad earlier. that opens the story up to the next level. Not just reading of minds, not just how do these tests work, but what else can these children do? And in episode 2, when Kai starts talking to Manisha, Akil's mom, and to Akil, you learn that Akil can do a lot more than just read minds. He can travel. So one example that they give is that Akil's mom went grocery shopping, and Akil knew everything that she had bought, and he knew what stores she had visited. And it becomes apparent throughout the episode and throughout the whole story that many, if not all, of these people can literally inhabit your sensory world, can literally coexist within your consciousness and see what you're seeing and read what you're reading and hear what you're hearing, if they choose to. And it sounds like they can only do this when there is a space of love and when there's a space of acceptance and there's a space of good, positive energy. It sounds like negative energy greatly disrupts their ability to do this, because it sounds like, and we'll get into evidence of this from the CIA later as well, but it's well documented in this season too, that emotional energy, that love, is at the core of all of these abilities. It's not an intellectual ability, it's a spiritual ability. And it sounds like spiritual blockages, emotional blockages, and emotional intensities are what either open the door to these abilities or close the door to these abilities, both in autistic people as well as in regular people, too. So, we meet this family of a mom named Katie and her son named Houston. And we will get into the book that Katie wrote shortly. He becomes a big part of the telepathy tape storyline, and he's a big part of what's not being talked about. And Houston drops a really interesting insight about stones and crystals and rocks.
Wow, Houston, this is incredible. I asked Katie how his passion for collecting stones started.
A friend of mine gave me 3 stones, and when she gave them to me, she said she had prayed over them. So this was very strange to me. I'm an evangelical Christian, and this was just not part of my practice in my faith. So I really didn't know what to make of this. I took them home, and I was in my bathroom, and I heard the bedroom door slam open, and then the bathroom door slammed open, and Houston started shouting, "Stones, stones, stones," and he wouldn't stop. And so I just was like, here, take them. I mean, I didn't know what to do with them. So anyway, I went into his room a little bit later, and he had lined these 3 stones up on his bedside table on the very edge. And he was lying on the very edge of his bed as close as he could get to these stones. I was completely baffled by the scene, and I said to him, Houston, what's all this? He sat straight up, and he started spelling, when you're autistic, you're a magnet for all energy, good and bad. These stones have good energy. I need more good energy.
this is where what's in the telepathy tapes is more than just a narrative. It's more than just a story. It's a bunch of data that is not necessarily obvious how to interpret. That story, if you take it at face value and you suspend disbelief and you listen to all the tapes and you just listen to what's being said, that story could mean that all stones have good energy and Houston likes all stones and that he needs good energy around him, and so he surrounds himself with stones with good energy. But there is a bit in there that implies that maybe praying over those stones imparted good energy to those stones. And I think about the experiments about good energy being imparted into water and how the water crystals froze. Famous controversial study that showed that you could impart good feelings into water and it would freeze into regular crystals. And if you impart bad energy into water, it would freeze into really messed up crystals. It's possible that Houston is actually referring to that exact phenomenon in stones, exactly the way that all the trippy hippy dippies are like, check out my crystals, brah, which is a world that I come from. So I just found that really interesting about how many questions the telepathy tapes bring up beyond just the incredible scope of what it answers here at face value. And real quick, before we move off of this episode, I want to briefly introduce us to the concept of the hill, which is completely mind-blowing, but also opens up a big door into what's going on here and how this whole thing is working.
He was spot on every single time. To be a part of those tests was, it was life-changing, it really was.
After all the testing, Houston took a much-needed break to relax, which gave Katie and I plenty of time to go through some of my questions. Okay, Katie, so can you tell me more about this talk on the hill and how you found out about it?
He calls it the talk on the hill, and it's where other non-speakers collaborate. You think of it like a CB radio. They all get on the same channel. So they have these essentially group conversations where they all contribute. And he said it works both ways. They teach each other. They share information. They give hope to those who are being discouraged. They pray for each other, and yes, it is telepathic. That might seem extraordinary, but if you realize that, like, phones and computers, we don't have to be in the same room or zip code, and that's because it's electromagnetic energy.
And then Katie told a story, which I was happy to hear because it validates some of the claims about the hill.
I got a message from a mom in Utah, whom I have never met. Her son spelled out to her, "Mom, Houston is my best friend." Her 9-year-old son, whom we've never met, spelled that out. And she was like, how?
So to clarify, autistic people apparently can tune in to this channel at any time from anywhere, and they can all hang out in a spiritual space where they can communicate and collaborate and share information and ideas. And in that space, there are numerous examples in the telepathy tapes as well as beyond what's included in the episodes that clearly show people on the hill communicating something to another person on the hill across vast distances, and then that person that was told something sharing that information and showing that it is correct in the real world outside of telepathy that proves that they were told something in a non-physical way. And this is the thing that's so interesting about autistic people, is that for the longest time, humans have always had stories about the supernatural, about God, about ghosts, about demons, about aliens, about all these things that we seem to have a stark lack of proof of. Things that are non-physical tend to be non-provable. And all of a sudden, we have physical beings that can go in and out of the spiritual and bring back information. And that allows us to test things. That allows us to understand so much more, because you can prove that if someone received a telepathic message about something that they otherwise would have no way of knowing, and then that message turns out to be correct, suddenly you have evidence that something is going on there. And suddenly, once you can prove that this is what's happening, then you can start to take all the rest of what they say seriously. And all the rest of what they say is completely paradigm shattering. But it's really important right now to take a big detour, because there's a whole side of this story that is not being talked about, that both is not in the telepathy tapes itself, and I have not seen anyone online discussing, because everyone is probably afraid to bring it up. And it starts with a V, and it's the thing that you put in yourself to keep you safe, that seems to be linked to an incredible rise in the number of autistic children around the world. Now, a quick word from our sponsor, which is me. Probably time as well. Just full media like and get every one and we'll have over on my this in air on so pin to bring it itself, and I have not and I'm talked about that both is not in the telepathy tapes itself, and I have not seen anyone online discussing because everyone is probably afraid to bring it up. And it starts with a V, and it's the thing that you put in yourself to keep you safe, that seems to be linked to an incredible rise in the number of autistic children around the world. And right from the first episode all the way through the 10th, I was waiting on pins and needles to see if it would come up, and asking over and over and over, does this phenomenon apply to all people that are non-speaking with autism? Or is it only the ones that had it naturally, so to speak? Is this something that is being imparted along with the autism when you take a experimental medical procedure that may or may not cause some unforeseen side effects? Or are those kids excluded? And is it that none of the kids in this story have had one of those things and has autism because of possibly some of those things? And it's not clear from the telepathy tapes because she completely avoids it entirely 100%. So I did a little digging and I found some answers. But before we go down this part of the rabbit hole, it's important to remember what Houston said about stones and about energy, and that autistic people are people, and that they are extremely fine-tuned to energy. And it is so important that we maintain at the top of this conversation that love is the most important part of everything, both in regular life and in this incredibly complex discussion about autistic people. And what autistic people need most, in their own words, is love and understanding and support and respect. They do not need to be made into lab rats or guinea pigs or test subjects. They do not need to be treated like some token to be flaunted around. They do not need to be turned into an idolized non-human entity that communicates with God and is only good for that purpose. Autistic people are people, and they deserve to be seen as whole people that live in this complex and unimaginable way to people that live in a normal human life. And so remember throughout this whole conversation that it's about love, and that it's never ever, we do not want to turn them into pessimists. And I can totally empathize with Kai's decision to leave the B word out of the entire podcast because of how that would muddy the narrative, how that would cause division and hatred and anger and bad juju. And that would only serve to harm the autistic people that this podcast is designed to serve. So I do not in any way blame Kai for leaving this part out of the conversation. I'm sure that other people feel differently. I'm not sure how everyone in the actual podcast feels about it, but I figure that I will have dig into it aside from Kai. And I will 100% support her in her way of telling this story. And over here, we can talk about the bigger picture. Because the bigger picture is that there's an awful lot of evidence that some experimental medical procedures might have a little something to do with the rise in autism. And I knew that Nicole Shanahan has particularly strong feelings about these things, and I was curious because she has an autistic daughter who was not born autistic, but developed it in her first year of life. And so I was very curious if Nicole Shanahan had spoken out publicly about this, and she had. And she had linked a post by Katie Asher, who is the mother of Houston, one of the primary subjects of the Telepathy Tapes series, and, I found out, is the author of a book. And she speaks a lot online about the issue and about how people should read the book, and so I bought it because I wanted to know, because it was implied that this is where these answers are, by Katie's post that Nicole linked here. My son before versus after the V's. He regressed rapidly, screamed, cried, was in constant pain, lost all skills. Regarding the justice due all the children and families who have been V injured, it is for society to demand the accountability to right this wrong. I've been da-da-da-da-da. So, that starts to answer our question. Houston is one of the primary subjects of the telepathy tapes, and he apparently was injured by a procedure. And he is telepathic. And it's very clear that he's telepathic when you listen to the episodes of the telepathy tapes. So at least some of the people that are receiving autism, so to speak, tragically, some of them are telepathic. But is it all of them? Spoiler. It seems like it might be. Not entirely clear. Autism is very complicated, and V injuries can be very complex, and they might present as one thing, but actually be something else. It's not just autism. There's a lot of things going on. And there's evidence within the telepathy tapes that seem to indicate that these telepathic abilities, these spiritual abilities, are not exclusively autistic people. It seems to be many different types of nonverbal people that can't speak, people in comas. There's a lot going on here that we don't understand yet. So I bought the Book of Heaven, but I want to support what Katie's doing, and I want to recommend that anyone that's interested should buy it. But I also want you to know what you're buying. This is not a memoir about her son's life. This is not a book entirely about her autistic boy. This book is about her whole life, and it's her memoir of all of the things that led to the birth of her son, and then how her son progressed, and then how he met, and it is largely about him. But when you first open it, the first chapters are about her upbringing and her abusive experiences in the past, and that sets the stage in a very important way for understanding the family dynamics that Houston was born into and understanding the greater storyline. And it is a tragic and beautiful story, and it's very well written. But you should understand that you're not going to get to her son Houston even being born until around page 60, and then the V thing happens around page 68. And then it's not until page 244 that they meet another autistic family, and then things really start to pick up. And so I felt very blessed that I had the intuition, I had the inspiration not to put the book down when I thought it was not about what I thought it was about, and I felt a little betrayed. I'm a very slow reader, and I was like, I don't have time to read this whole book and find out if he's even in here. But I decided to pause that and skip around and find it, and I found the places where Houston enters the story and that are critical and formative to Houston's life. And so we're going to speed through some of this because it's really interesting. And then once we've kind of established the V thing, then we're going to talk about the CIA and the DOD and the technocrats and what the hell might be going on. But first, in their own words, when he was 8 months old, he had a series of V's, including the DATP. 5 days later, he broke out in a few little red freckles. I thought it was odd, but I didn't want to overreact. He didn't have a fever and his activity was normal. The next day, I went to get him out of his crib, and he stood holding onto the rail, and I gasped. His sweet little body was covered in those strange freckles. I picked him up and cradled him against me, as I went to call the doctor. My logical mind was quite certain the doctor would know what it was and would tell me not to worry.
Where does it hurt? State the nature of your medical
I was just waiting to hear the diagnosis to know what to feel. It was ITP. Houston's body did not respond properly to his immunizations and had started killing off his own blood platelets. I was relieved it was not leukemia, and we followed the treatment protocol. But the nurse's phone call from when I was pregnant was never far from my mind. And then, over the next months, he started to regress, and his personality started to fade, and his motor skills started to break, and he developed autism. So, that is tragic. And when you read in their own words the story of a mother watching their child slip away from them, a child that was developing normally, and then starts to develop backwards and apparently fade away and stop making eye contact and stop wanting to be touched and stop wanting to be held, that is so sad to me. And it is a deep crime against children and against our species and against God that these things are happening. And everyone that is involved in any medications that might do something like this should be fully investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That's my belief. So it's really important that we remember that just because autistic people seem to have these incredible abilities does not mean that we want more autistic people. The autistic people in this book and in this storyline actually corroborate that they agree with that in multiple occasions. That if someone is developing autism, you should do what you can to not develop autism. It is not an easy life. It is not a good thing. But it is also true that autistic people are beautiful and whole and often happy, and that they don't wish they were different. They don't wish they were non-autistic, I think, for the most part. Maybe some people. They just want to be heard and seen and loved and respected. And so there's multiple things to hold at once here. And it's all based on love and respect. Love for children, love for parents, love for autistic people, love for the whole system. We are where we are, and it is what it is. And we don't want to keep making more autistic people. That is not the goal, ever. But the people that are autistic are presenting with these incredible gifts, and they're here for us now, and we should be learning from them and listening to them, because what they tell us is completely out of control. And here's a few examples. This is when Katie first met another family on page 250 that had an autistic son, John Paul, the student that I showed in the very first clip I showed that was stimming a lot and had very little body control. That's John Paul. And they met his family, and they encouraged Katie to teach her son Houston to use those letterboards so that he could start to spell out his thoughts, because he was almost 20 and she had never spoken with him. He had never given her a single word. As far as she knew, there was nothing in there, and she had completely given up hope. And that part is really sad to read. Here's John Paul's message. So John Paul speaking directly to Katie about what she should do for her son, Houston. It is life-changing, and that is an understatement. Houston needs a voice. We all do. Don't let time or money deter you. Don't let the fact that you tried a zillion interventions over the years that haven't worked make you gun-shy. This is the real deal, and it works. It is not a cure. We don't need a cure. We need a chance to live a life as who we are. I'm certain Houston is as excited for you to meet him as you will be. We are great people. We just need the same opportunities to be known that everyone gets effortlessly. I'm so glad you came and have an open mind. By the way, my mom is fabulous at this, and she should work with Houston and you. Once she started teaching Houston to spell, using those letterboards, he eventually strung together his first sentence. And the first thing that he told his mom was, "I'm in here." Quote, he spelled, "I'm in here." The weight of a soul, of my son's soul, hit me like a gale wind and left me stunned, speechless. My heart and my mind didn't seem to grasp it all. It was too wonderful. Oh my gosh. Houston. Imagine going through 20 years of life thinking that your son is a vegetable and that there's nothing in there. And then finding this ability for him to communicate, and the first thing he wants to communicate is, "I'm in here."
Orders received.
We'll get to the CIA documents in a minute. So then, once Houston developed the ability to spell out his words and his thoughts, slowly at first and then faster over time, she started to find out that he knew a lot of shit. And suddenly the question became, Not, are you in there? But how the hell do you know all of this stuff? So July 3rd, 2018. If you get a chance to get this book, read chapter 36, end to end. Find it online, buy it, somehow read chapter 36, end to end. I started expanding to history to make lessons. Since it was around the 4th of July, I did a lesson on the Declaration of Independence. Then, for whatever reason, I asked, what is the famous line from the Declaration? Do you know the famous line from the Declaration of Independence in its entirety, word for word? I bet most Americans do not. He spelled it out. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I sat there in shock. How do you know this? Keep going. And he did, from the beginning. I would check his work against Jefferson's long sentences. I found one error in the use of an article, but that was it. He spelled the following, with Morgan watching, Morgan being another person in the room. So to clarify, he has never been taught about this stuff. Autistic children are usually being given kindergarten classes over and over and over for their entire lives. He's just been taught like colors and shapes and basic numbers and letters over and over and over and over and over. There's no reason he should know anything about the Declaration of Independence, let alone be able to recite it verbatim on the spot with no practice. Quote, this is what he spelled on the fly. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinion of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Over the next several days, he continued to write out the entire freaking document. Sometimes I would let him take a break. Barely. I was desperate to know all he knew. I was desperate to know him. Like a mother who hasn't gotten to talk to their child in 2 decades, I wouldn't let up. The Inquisition began. And so she started to just ask him questions. She stopped teaching him lessons and started just asking him questions like, how much do you know? And how do you know it? And some of this stuff he knows is crazy. Like all these questions. You don't know the answer to these questions. Name 2 people responsible for the Declaration that died on the same day. What day did they die? Do you know who she's talking about? July 4th, 1826. Who are 2 famous American people that died on July 4th, 1826? Jason, my future son-in-law, was listening and interjected, there's no way he knows that. Houston, as if to defy us all, continued spelling, unaffected by the disbelief, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson. Who was the oldest person who signed the Declaration of Independence? Do you know the answer to that? It was Benjamin Franklin. How old was he? 70. This goes on and on and on. And Houston, all of the answers and responses are chronicled here. And at one point, he reminds us of something that all Americans could use being reminded of. Who inspired Thomas Jefferson as he wrote the Declaration of Independence? Houston answered, John Locke. What was his philosophy of government? Houston answered, contract between the people and government. What do people give the government? Houston answered, permission to govern. Eventually, she asked, do you know any other important documents? Yes. Which ones? The Gettysburg Address. Do you know the Gettysburg Address? Because Houston, do you know who she's talking about? July 4th, 1826. Who are 2 famous American people that died on July 4th, 1826? Jason, my future son-in-law, was listening and interjected, there's no way he knows that. Houston, as if to defy us all, continued spelling, unaffected by the disbelief, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson. Who was the oldest person who signed the Declaration of Independence? Do you know the answer to that? It was Benjamin Franklin. How old was he? 70. This goes on and on and on, and Houston, all of the answers and responses are chronicled here. And at one point, he reminds us of something that all Americans could use being reminded of. Who inspired Thomas Jefferson as he wrote the Declaration of Independence? Houston answered, John Locke. What was his philosophy of government? Houston answered, contract between the people and government. What do people give the government? Houston answered, permission to govern. Eventually, she asked, "Do you know any other important documents?" "Yes." "Which ones?" "The Gettysburg Address." "Do you know the Gettysburg Address?" Because Houston, an autistic kid, does. By heart, word for word. Having never been taught it before, probably having never seen it in his life. I asked him to spell the Gettysburg Address, and he spelled, quote, "407 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal." Katie videotaped. It took 11 minutes. I asked who wrote it and why they were fighting. He spelled Abraham Lincoln and slavery. It goes on and on and on. She asks him, "How do you know all of this?" And he says, "Internet." Spoiler alert, it's not the internet. But this is when Katie and Houston were first connecting, and this is when he was first showing what he could do to her, and she still didn't know that he could read minds, let alone all the other stuff. And so you can see in the evidence of these conversations that he was nervous to tell her what was really going on. Later on in the conversation, again, she asks, "Did you read or hear that story?" "It was on the internet." "What website?" "Fox News." As if he's reading Fox News. Here is a small piece of evidence about autistic children not encouraging us to have more autistic children. Morgan, another person, called, and on speaker we discussed an earlier conversation with a mom who has a newly diagnosed 2-year-old with autism. Morgan asked Houston what she should do. Houston eagerly took the pencil and spelled, "She needs to go to the hospital right now so he isn't autistic." My heart broke thinking about my frightened young son 20 years earlier, realizing he was trapped. I asked if he remembered everything I tried to do to help him. He spelled, "I know you tried hard for a long time and it didn't work." I asked if he knew why. "No," he spelled. He starts talking about God, and that is a common theme across all of these autistic people. All these non-speakers, they are all deeply spiritual, deeply religious, and they say they talk to God. They say God teaches them. They say that they can go to a land where God is, where they can interact with angels and spirits, where they can learn from the dead. Spoiler alert. And that all fleshes out later in future episodes of the telepathy tapes. But in this conversation, he's starting to talk about God a little bit. And he says that he wants to study psychology, and she asks why. And he says, "I want to help others hear God in their hearts." She asks, "Do you hear God in your heart?" "Yes." "What does he say?" "He says that I have a purpose and that nothing can stop it, so keep hoping." When did you read all of this? Everyone wants to know because we only see you on YouTube. And Houston says, "At night." And what that is a euphemism for is that is him not yet being comfortable saying that he is learning all of these things from what is best described as the Akashic Records, as the compilation of all knowledge humans have ever had. There's stories later on in the telepathy tapes that these people can actually go and talk to the dead souls of Thomas Jefferson, or of Isaac Newton, or of Benjamin Franklin. Yes, it is like that. And yes, there is evidence that that might be what's actually happening, and you should listen to the entire season of the telepathy tapes before you make any judgment one way or another. Because it really does rewrite our entire understanding of consciousness, of the soul, of God, of spirituality, and of the physical nature of our realm, and what the meaning of our lives here might even be. And here he describes how he's afraid to tell her just what he can do and how he knows these things, and he kind of deflects the reasoning why he's afraid to tell her. So, there's a lot going on here. And we've now answered the question, do the things have to do with this phenomenon? And the answer is yes. And Kai made a conscious and intentional decision to not include that discussion at all in the telepathy tapes, and that is perfectly okay as far as I'm concerned. You can have your own opinion. We'll talk about it out here, and that's fine. I really, really hope that we do not cloud the conversation with all this political hatred and bullshit and evil. It's like love and respect and kindness, please. because we are where we are. These kids are how they are. Most of them are adults now, and they are way smarter than us, and they know way more than us. Okay, so let's just all pump the brakes and be a little more humble. And now let's talk about the tinfoil. Because what first opened my mind to the concept that maybe there's more to this reality than just the physical matter, maybe God is real, maybe there are other realms, maybe time is not linear. For me, the first piece of evidence that really kind of popped that bubble was the CIA's long history of funding research into what's called remote viewing, which is where a person basically meditates and then in their mind projects their spirit or consciousness to another place, and sometimes even to another timeline, and observes the real world through remotely projecting their consciousness, and comes back with real information, like descriptions of a place, or words that were said in a conversation, or words that are on documents in a room on the other side of the world. If you don't know about remote viewing, look into it. It's a wild phenomenon, and the CIA thought it was so wild that they have invested tens of millions of dollars that we know of over the years into many, many, many hundreds of tests into this kind of stuff. If you search for CIA history of remote viewing on your search engine of choice, you will quickly find the first link I have here, CIA.gov reading room. This is an officially declassified report that was an evaluation done in the 90s, 1995, of all CIA remote viewing projects to date. Mostly it's focusing on Operation Stargate. Right? That's the name of it? Project Stargate? Yes, Project Stargate. As well as a couple other subsequent CIA and DIA programs. Beginning in the 1970s, it has conducted a program intended to investigate the application of one paranormal phenomenon, remote viewing, or the ability to describe locations one has not visited. There's all kinds of good juice in these documents, both about how the experiments were conducted, how statistically significant they were, how much range and room for error was involved, and some of the conclusions that were drawn. And one of the early conclusions is that evidence has not been provided that clearly demonstrates that the causes of hits, as in correct guesses, are due to the operation of paranormal phenomena. The laboratory experiments have not identified the source or origins of the remote viewing phenomenon. So they know that something's happening because they're getting more than random chance generation of correct answers, but they don't know how it's working or what's going on, is one of the early findings. Quote, the information provided was inconsistent, inaccurate with regard to specifics, and required substantial subjective interpretation. In no case had the information provided ever been used to guide the intelligence operations. Thus, remote viewing failed to produce actionable intelligence. So there's a lot of stuff going on in these documents. There's a lot of stuff going on with remote viewing, and it's pretty clear that the CIA for a long time did not really understand what they were doing. It seems like they know a lot more about it now, and if you don't know about the Gateway Project and the Gateway tapes, that's a whole other rabbit hole for you to dig into. But in these earlier tests, they seem to be a little lost and not know exactly what's going on. But since 1986, perhaps 50 to 100 additional studies of remote viewing have been conducted. At least some of these studies represented significant attempts to address methodological problems noted in the review conducted by this panel. So they've been through lots of iterations of these tests, and they have learned a lot over the years. And one of the later conclusions is this, written by a single scientist. There is little benefit to continuing experiments designed to offer proof, since there is little more to be offered to anyone who does not accept the current collection of data. And what that means is we don't need to do any more experiments to prove that this is a possible phenomenon. What we need to do is experiments to understand what the hell it is and how it works. Because what he's saying here in the sentence is that they already have all the proof you could ever need that remote viewing is real and that it is possible, and they just need to understand it better. Because the variability in their tests seems, when you read through it and when you understand what's going on here, it seems like it's because it's an ability that can be honed, and some people are born better at it than others, and so some people are no good at it, and some people can't do it well, and so you get lots of negative tests. And then some people are super fucking good at it and can be highly accurate with this remote viewing capability. This remote viewing stuff is very tied to what the autistic people are telling us they are doing as well. Just to, tie us back in. We're going to come back around. This is particularly poignant. This is in 75. One of the apparent successes concerned the West Virginia site, in which 2 remote viewers purportedly identified an underground secret facility. One of them apparently named code words and personnel in this facility accurately enough that it set off a security investigation to determine how that information could have been leaked. Based only on the coordinates of the site, the viewer first described the above-ground terrain, then proceeded to describe details of the hidden underground site. The same viewer then claimed that he could describe a similar communist bloc site and proceeded to do so for a site in the Urals, which is the mountains over in the USSR. According to Puthoff, and Tard, the 2 reports for the West Virginia site and the report for the Urals site were identified by personnel in the sponsor organization as being substantially correct. So, I'll skip over to it. I actually, through a series of investigations, accidentally stumbled across finding the original reports of those original tests specifically, where the 2 different subjects that were told to view the West Virginia site wrote out their findings. And it's here, and it's here. And right here, on a later date, Subject 1 was asked to return to the West Virginia site with the goal of obtaining information on code words, if possible. In response, Subject 1 supplied the following information. Top of desk had papers labeled Flytrap and Minerva. File cabinet on north wall labeled Operation Pool. Third word, unreadable. Folders inside, cabinet labeled Cue Ball, 14 Ball, 4 Ball, 8 Ball, and Rack Up. Name of site vaguely seems like Hayfork or Haystack. And that is all from inside of a room in a CIA study.
You've not enough minerals. But land calls, thus I serve. But land calls. The warriors have engaged the I long Upgrade complete. Presence. Trust in me. We are vigilant. Gala. Incasmin. Cheers. Gala. Moradun. Monalko. Skanadul. Gala. Incasmin. Your warriors have engaged the enemy. Not enough energy. Your warriors have engaged the enemy. Upgrade complete. What now calls? Us I serve. Go, Kola. Upgrade complete. I long for combat. What now calls? Upgrade complete. What now calls? Is your turn. I long for combat. For Adun. Upgrade complete. I long for combat. I long for combat. Cheers for Adun. Total successful. Upgrade complete. I long for combat.
As well as a couple other subsequent CIA and DIA programs. Beginning in the 1970s, it has conducted a program intended to investigate the application of one paranormal phenomenon, remote viewing, or the ability to describe locations one has not visited. There's all kinds of good juice in these documents, both about how the experiments were conducted, how statistically significant they were, how much range and room for error was involved, and some of the conclusions that were drawn. And one of the early conclusions is that evidence has not been provided that clearly demonstrates that the causes of hits, as in correct guesses, are due to the operation of paranormal phenomena. The laboratory experiments have not identified the source or origins of the remote viewing phenomenon. So they know that something's happening because they're getting more than random chance generation of correct answers, but they don't know how it's working or what's going on, is one of the early findings. Quote, the information provided was inconsistent, inaccurate with regard to specifics, and required substantial subjective interpretation. In no case had the information provided ever been used to guide the intelligence operations. Thus, remote viewing failed to produce actionable intelligence. So there's a lot of stuff going on in these documents. There's a lot of stuff going on with remote viewing, and it's pretty clear that the CIA for a long time did not really understand what they were doing. It seems like they know a lot more about it now, and if you don't know about the Gateway Project and the Gateway tapes, that's a whole other rabbit hole for you to dig into. But in these earlier tests, they seem to be a little lost and not know exactly what's going on. But since 1986, perhaps 50 to 100 additional studies of remote viewing have been conducted. At least some of these studies represented significant attempts to address methodological problems noted in the review conducted by this panel. So they've been through lots of iterations of these tests. Is exactly what's going on project and the Gateway tapes. That's a whole other rabbit hole for you to dig into. But in these earlier tests, they seem to be a little lost and not know exactly what's going on. But since 1986, perhaps 50 to 100 additional studies of remote viewing have been conducted. At least some of these studies represented significant attempts to address methodological problems noted in the review conducted by this panel. So they've been through lots of iterations of these tests, and they have learned a lot over the years. And one of the later conclusions is this, written by a single scientist. There is little benefit to continuing experiments designed to offer proof, since there is little more to be offered to anyone who does not accept the current collection of data. And what that means is we don't need to do any more experiments to prove that this is a possible phenomenon. What we need to do is experiments to understand what the hell it is and how it works. Because what he's saying here in this sentence is that they already have all the proof you could ever need that remote viewing is real and that it is possible, and they just need to understand it better. Because the variability in their tests seems, when you read through it and when you understand what's going on here, it seems like it's because it's an ability that can be honed, and some people are born better at it than others, and so some people are no good at it, and some people can't do it well, and so you get lots of negative tests. And then some people are super fucking good at it and can be highly accurate with this remote viewing capability. This remote viewing stuff is very tied to what the autistic people are telling us they're doing as well. Just to, tie us back in. We're going to come back around. This is particularly poignant. This is in 75. One of the apparent successes concerned the West Virginia site, in which 2 remote viewers purportedly identified an underground secret facility. One of them apparently named code words and personnel in this facility accurately enough that it set off a security investigation to determine how that information could have been leaked. Based only on the coordinates of the site, the viewer first described the above-ground terrain, then proceeded to describe details of the hidden underground site. The same viewer then claimed that he could describe a similar communist bloc site and proceeded to do so for a site in the Urals, which is the mountains over in the USSR. According to Puthoff, and Targ, the 2 reports for the West Virginia site and the report for the Urals site were identified by personnel in the sponsor organization as being substantially correct. So, I'll skip over to it. I actually, through a series of investigations, accidentally stumbled across finding the original reports of those original tests specifically, where the 2 different subjects that were told to view the West Virginia site wrote out their findings. And it's here, and it's here. And right here, on a later date, Subject 1 was asked to return to the West Virginia site with the goal of obtaining information on code words, if possible. In response, Subject 1 supplied the following information. Top of desk had papers labeled Flytrap and Minerva. File cabinet on north wall labeled Operation Pool. Third word, unreadable. Folders inside, cabinet labeled Cue Ball, 14 Ball, 4 Ball, 8 Ball, and Rack Up. Name of site, vaguely seems like Hayfork or Haystack. And that is all from inside of a room in a CIA studies facility far away, having never been to this West Virginia site, only given coordinates that he should project his consciousness to. And that is the original study, the original reports of what turned into the report we just read, where they had a whole security lockdown and briefing about how the hell this information had leaked, because there's no way they should have known this. So, here's some conclusions that they drew about the whole body of work that the CIA had produced about remote viewing, and some of them are pretty striking. 1. Free response remote viewing, in which subjects describe a target, was much more successful than forced choice experiments, in which subjects were asked to choose from a small set of possibilities. That makes zero fucking sense. If you give someone a multiple choice test where there's 4 options, and then the other person you give them a describe what the location at coordinates A and B are, the chances of free describing a place that you only know the coordinates of are 1 to a billion. How could you ever know what to describe at some random coordinates, right? You would think that person would be wrong all the fucking time. Whereas if you have 4 choices, you're going to be 25% correct on average, right? But what this says is that is not the case. Trying to contain the information into a multiple choice situation is not as successful, and actually they had more success when free describing the location, which is strong evidence that there's something going on. There was a group of 6 selected individuals whose performance far exceeded that of unselected subjects. The fact that these same selected individuals consistently perform better than others under a variety of protocols provides a type of replicability that helps us substantiate the validity of the results. If methodological problems were responsible for the results, they should not have affected this group differently from the others. So there was a group of 6 people that were really good at remote viewing, and they performed exceptionally well in multiple different studies under different different circumstances with different researchers. And they're saying that that shows evidence that it is a phenomenon and it's not a fluke of one test or another test. That also explains why some tests might not show as good a results, because some people are just better at this than other people. Mass screening efforts found that about 1% of those who volunteered to be tested were consistently successful at remote viewing. This indicates that remote viewing is an ability that differs across individuals, much like athletic ability or musical talent.
Forces are under attack.
Just elaborate on that point. At the time, although I think this is not true anymore, I think they've figured this part out. But at the time, neither practice nor a variety of training techniques consistently worked to improve remote viewing ability. It appears that it is easier to find than to train good remote viewers. 6. Distance between the target and the subject does not seem to impact the quality of the remote viewing. Electromagnetic shielding does not appear to inhibit performance. There is compelling evidence that precognition, in which the target is selected after the subject has already given the description, is also successful. Precognition. There's evidence that they can precognate what the question is going to be. That's a whole rabbit hole. There is no evidence to support that anomalous perturbation, i.e. psychokinesis, i.e. like moving a spoon with your mind in another room, i.e.
Not enough minerals.
Yes, sir. Job finished. Orders, Captain. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain. Reporting for duty. Orders received. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain. Orders received. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Not enough minerals.
Yes, sir. I read you. Reporting for duty. Yes, sir. SCV good to go, sir. Job finished. I read you. Orders, Captain. Orders, Captain. SCV good to go, sir. Yes, sir. Job finished. You want a reason, me, boy? I read you. Give me some of this shoot. Commander, standing by. Rock and roll. Affirmative. Standing by. Give me some of this shoot. Give me some of this shoot. Roger that. Right away, sir. Affirmative. You want a piece of me, boy? Jacked up and good to go. Reporting for duty. Jacked up and good to go. Outstanding. Give me some of this shoot. Right away, sir. Jacked up and good to go. Standing by. Give me some of this shoot. You want a piece of me, boy? Jacked up and good to go. Give me some of this shoot. Jacked Orders, Captain? Reporting for duty.
Not enough minerals.
Job finished. I read you. Yes, sir? Affirmative. Yes, sir?
Not enough minerals.
Commander, rock and roll. Rock and roll. Go, go, go. Rock and roll. Outstanding. Go, go, go.
Yes, sir?
Standing by. Jacked up and good to go. Go, go, go. Let's move.
Research complete.
Job finished.
Give me something to
Good to
shoot.
go, sir. Finished.
Commander,
Reporting for
you want
duty.
a piece of me,
I
boy?
read you. Reporting for duty. Job finished.
Give me something to
Job
shoot.
finished.
Let's move.
SCV good to go, sir.
Jacked up and good to go.
Yes, sir?
Commander, outstanding. Go, go, go. Let's move. Outstanding. Rock and roll. Go, go, go. Let's move.
Job SCV good to go, sir. Orders
Give me something to shoot.
Add-on complete.
Jacked up and good to go.
Insufficient phosphine gas.
Give me something to shoot.
SCV good to go, sir.
Outstanding.
Add-on
Give me
complete.
something to shoot.
Orders, Captain?
Commander, outstanding. Rock and roll.
Yes, sir?
Give me something to shoot.
Insufficient
Job
phosphine
TV good
gas.
to go, sir. Orders received. I read you. Reporting for duty. I read you.
Insufficient phosphine gas.
out.
Insufficient phosphine gas.
SCV good to go, sir.
Standing by. Yes, sir. Jacked up.
Identify target. Reporting for
Give me
duty.
something to shoot.
Yes, sir? I can't build there.
Upgrade
Commander,
complete.
sir. Jacked up and good to go. Orders, sir. Give me something to shoot. Rock and roll out.
Research
Good to
complete.
go, sir.
sir. Commander, let's move. Identify target. Let's move. Commander, let's move. Go, go, go.
Orders, Captain? I can't build there. I read you. Orders,
Your
Captain?
forces are under attack.
Let's move. Give me something to shoot. You want a piece of me, boy?
Destination?
Give me
Yes,
something to shoot.
Identify target. Reporting for duty.
Standing by.
Did someone page me?
Identify target.
Standing by.
Yes, sir.
Where does it hurt?
Delighted to, sir. SCV good to go, sir.
Did someone page me? I'm on the job. I'm on the job.
Reporting for duty.
Standing
I read
by.
you.
Not enough your forces are under attack.
Did someone page me?
Yes, sir. Delighted to, sir. Yes, sir. I read you.
Did someone page
Orders,
me?
Captain? Orders, sir.
Commander,
Proceeding.
standing by.
Proceeding.
You want a piece of me, boy?
Yes, sir.
Let's move.
Job finished. Reporting for duty.
Your
Reporting for
forces are
duty.
under attack.
Standing by.
Yes, sir.
Commander,
Identify target. Job finished. Orders, sir. For duty.
Add-on complete.
I read you. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain? Orders,
piece of
sir.
me, boy?
Absolutely. Destination? Delighted to, sir. Orders, Captain? Affirmative. SCV good to go, sir. Orders, sir. Moving. I read you. Affirmative. I can't build there. Destination? Job SCV good to go, sir. I read you.
Add-on complete. Add-on
Orders,
complete.
Captain?
give me something to shoot.
Identify target.
Base is under attack.
Let's move.
SCV good to go,
You want
sir.
a piece of me, boy?
Not enough minerals.
SCV good to go, sir.
Not enough minerals.
Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Job finished. Job finished. Reporting for duty. Job finished. Affirmative. Job finished.
You want a piece of me, boy? Standing by. Let's move.
Job SCP good to go, sir.
Can I take your order?
Orders, Captain.
Give me something to shoot.
Orders, Captain.
Give me something to shoot.
Reporting for duty.
Ready to roll
Orders,
out.
Captain. Orders, Captain. Reporting for duty. SCP good to go, sir. Roger that.
Commander.
I read you.
Jacked up and good to go.
Identify target. Ready to roll out.
Reporting for
Not
duty.
enough minerals.
Roger that.
Give me
I
something to
read you.
shoot.
I can't build
Give me
there.
something to shoot.
Identify target.
I read you.
Identify target.
Add-on complete.
Yes, sir.
Add-on complete.
Order, sir. Absolutely.
Not enough
Orders,
minerals.
Captain.
Jacked up and
SCP
good to
good to
go.
go, sir. Job finished, sir.
Ready to
Orders,
roll
Captain.
out.
Reporting for duty. Job
Jacked
finished.
up and good to
Job
go.
finished. Job finished. SCP good to go, sir.
Destination.
I got that.
Orders, sir. Destination.
Yes, sir. Orders received.
Orders, sir. Ready to roll out. Destination. Yes, sir.
In the 555.
Yes, sir.
Reporting for duty. I can't build there.
Orders, sir. Ready to roll out.
Your forces are
Yes,
under
sir.
attack.
Destination. United to sir.
Standing by.
Destination.
Your forces are under attack.
Identify
Orders,
target.
Captain. Job finished. Job finished. Orders,
Ready to
Captain.
roll out.
Your forces are under attack.
Reporting for duty.
Destination. United to sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
SCP good to go, sir.
Destination.
Orders, Captain.
Identify target.
Your forces are under attack.
Something on your mind? Proceeding.
Reporting for duty. SCP
Orders,
good to go,
sir.
sir.
Delighted to, sir.
Standing by.
Destination, sir.
All right. Bring it on.
Yes, sir.
Ready to roll out. Identify target.
SCP good to go, sir. Job finished.
Orders, sir.
Job finished. Affirmative.
You want a piece of me, boy?
Yes, sir.
Orders, Captain. SCP good to
Your
go,
forces
sir.
are under attack.
All
Right
right.
away, sir.
Bring it on.
Orders received.
Orders, sir. Destination, delighted to, sir.
Job finished. SCP good to go, sir.
Identify
Roger
target.
that. Orders, Captain.
Add-on
Affirmative.
complete.
I read you. Orders, Captain. Job finished. Yes, sir. I can't see orders, Captain. SCP good to go, sir.
Identify target. Moving.
Job finished.
Explorer reporting.
Report for duty.
Orders,
Job
sir.
finished. Report
Destination,
for duty. Still there.
ready to roll out.
Job finished. Job finished. Job finished. I read you.
Identify target. Delighted to, sir. Orders, sir. Destination, yes, sir. Absolutely. Destination,
Job finished.
Research
absolutely.
complete.
Right away, sir.
Orders,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Orders, Captain.
Add-on
Report for duty.
complete.
I can't build there.
Identify target. Orders, sir.
SCP good to go, sir. Report for duty.
Destination,
Orders, Captain.
yes, sir. Orders, sir.
Job finished.
Greetings,
Job
Commander.
finished. Job finished. SCP good to go, sir. Job finished. I read you.
Transmit
I read you.
orders.
Job Captain.
Ready to
Orders
roll
received.
out. Yes, sir.
Affirmative. Job finished. Orders, Captain.
Destination,
Not enough
Report for
minerals.
duty. Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Report for duty. Yes, sir.
Orders, sir. Moving.
SCP good to go, sir.
Add-on complete.
Orders, sir.
Add-on complete.
Job finished. Job's finished. Hang on, we're in for some jobs. Yes, sir. Input coordinates. Report for duty. Affirmative. Orders, Captain. Roger that. Something on your mind? Yes, sir. I can't build that. Ready to roll out. Ready to roll out. I can't build it. Something's in the way. Yes, sir. Move it. Move it. Proceed. Sir.
Your forces are under attack.
Right away, sir. Orders received. I can't build there. Report for duty. I can't build there. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain. Job's finished.
Unacceptable landing zone.
Job's finished.
Ready to roll out.
Job's finished. Absolutely. Job's finished. I read you. Ready to roll out. Absolutely. In the 5 by 5. In the 5 by 5.
Upgrade complete.
I can't build. I read you.
Add-on
I can't build it.
complete.
Something's in the way.
Quiet online.
Orders, sir.
Your forces are under attack.
Orders, sir. Destination.
Jacked up and good to go.
Destination. In transit, HQ.
Your forces are under
Input
attack.
coordinates. Hang on, we're in for some jobs.
Your forces are under attack.
Ready to roll out. Reporting for duty. I can't build there.
Your
Absolutely.
forces are under attack.
Navcom locked.
Proceeding.
Your forces
Input
are under
coordinates.
attack.
In the 5 by 5.
Goliath
Orders,
online.
destination.
Goliath online.
Your forces are under attack. Research and upgrade complete.
Proceed. Ready to roll out.
Your forces are under attack.
Proceeding. I copy that. Strap yourselves in, boys. Destination. Orders, Captain. Hang on, we're in for some chops. Ready to roll out. Ready to roll out.
Goliath online.
Ready to roll
Your
out.
forces are under attack. Complete.
Goliath online.
Job finished.
Your forces are under attack.
Yes, sir. Orders, Captain.
Online.
Job finished. Strap yourselves in, boys. Yes, sir. Ready to roll out. In the 5 by 5. In transit, HQ.
Goliath
Strap
online.
yourselves in, boys. Buckle up.
Your forces are under attack.
Ready to roll out. Input
Your
coordinates.
forces are under attack.
Need lightning, sir.
Insufficient
Goliath
phosphine gas.
online.
Your forces are under attack.
Destination.
Sector Octane. Coordinates received.
Your forces are under attack.
Calling online. Intercom locked.
Your forces are under attack.
Moving.
Destination.
Rates of waiting launch orders. Ready to roll out.
Your forces are under attack.
Go ahead, Commander. Ready to roll
Go ahead,
out.
HQ. Hang on, we're in for some chops.
Destination.
Destination. Job finished.
Your forces are under attack.
In transit,
Job
HQ.
finished. Transmit
Input
coordinates.
coordinates. Report for duty. Yes, sir.
Rate of waiting
Destination.
launch
Go
orders.
ahead, HQ.
Transmit
I'm
coordinates. That's our
Input
formation.
coordinates.
Rate of waiting launch orders.
Yes, sir. I read you. Destination. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain.
Ready to roll
I read
out.
you. I can't feel orders received. Input coordinates.
Ready to roll out.
Complete.
I'm listening.
Your forces are under
Sector
attack.
Octane. Proceeding.
Upgrade complete.
Destination. I can't feel there. I can't feel there. Yes, sir. In transit, HQ. In the 555.
Alliance online. Confirmed.
Add-on complete.
Job's finished. Destination. Hang on, we're in for some chops. I'm listening.
Go ahead, Commander. That's our formation. Reporting in. Coordinates received.
Go ahead, HQ.
Roger. Coordinates
I'm
received.
listening. Strap yourselves in, boys. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain. I'm listening. Report for
Rate of
duty.
waiting launch
Input
orders.
coordinates.
Standing
In the
by.
555.
Transmit coordinates. Orders, sir.
Research complete.
Destination. Standing by.
Base is under attack. Base is under attack.
Input coordinates.
Go ahead, Commander.
Orders, Captain. Hang on, we're in for
Base
some
is under
chops.
attack.
In transit, HQ. Strap yourselves in, boys.